Yeah. Welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend. If you do not do these things, I'm going to assume that you do not go to a barber at least 2 times a month. On this edition of the pod, we have another returning guest. We're doing this pod so much we have multiple returning guests. Friend, fellow Giants fan. I have my buddy Reek back in the building for us to talk a lot of different things. How you doing, Reek?
I'm all right. I'm all right. As you said, fellow Giants fan. It brought me back to the chair. Let's put it like that. It brought me right back to the same couch that I need to be on, talking about all my problems as far as the front office, what's on the field, and the product that is the New York Football Giants. What's going on, baby?
You know, life. We were just talking about relationships, and now we're definitely going to talk about another relationship. So we could just get straight into this shit.
Right.
This Bill Belichick story is getting weirder by the week.
Yes.
So Bill Belichick is 73 years old. He has a 24-year-old girlfriend. Her name is Jordan Hudson. Jordan something. Um, and they've been together now since she was in college. So put a little 2 and 2 together. Shout out to Shannon Sharp. Anyway, they are together. He is now coaching the University of North Carolina Tar Heels football team. And basically, over the last couple of days, there have been multiple reports and multiple actual interviews of this woman doing, frankly, very cringeworthy stuff. She has started an LLC by Bill Belichick that doesn't actually exist. She has interrupted multiple interviews that he has done. And now, reportedly, there was going to be hard knocks for UNC this coming season. And apparently, due to from the reports from the Athletic, is that Jordan is the reason why this didn't happen. So Reek, I'm curious as a man who just tried to give me some relationship advice. How are you digesting what I feel like most of us consider to be the greatest football mind of our generation, looking kind of like a cuck in a way?
Uh, ooh, Speaking of the relationship advice, and I appreciate the question and the introduction. The best people to take advice from as far as relationships are people that aren't in relationships, right? So you can avoid all of what they have to offer to get to your relationship. That said, you said something in the beginning about it being weird. Like now, it started off weird. So there's nothing that can be done and or said that would make it unweird as it relates to that relationship. If her age were backwards, it still would be a very large age gap between the two, and it would be strange. I'm not sure how those two are compatible in any which way, but that's their business. I just think that it is weird, and I also try not to lend myself too much social or mental bandwidth to that relationship. That said, um, you know, as far as what's going on in the University of North Carolina in their football program, it's two great hires, right, with Bill Belichick and their GM, and so you would think that they're headed in the right direction, and all things on the field, they are. They just signed. They did lose a big defensive end that just entered the portal and ended up at Ohio State, South Bragg, but they just signed a nice quarterback. They avoided the Tennessee quarterback, and so they're moving themselves away from any type of controversy that could be on the field, and they're kind of limiting themselves and their brand to this 24-year-old woman who kind of just came out of oblivion, right? I, I'm fascinated by her involvement in what is the University of North Carolina's football program, but also in state-funded program, right? Like those people that have involvement in things like that are vetted by a board of directors and trustees on for every department, and then are approved by the school to work for them. That's not the case with her. It seems as if she has a stronghold in anything as it relates to the media coverage and media relations with the University of North Carolina football team, and that could be off-putting to a lot of people, not just people in the media, but people consuming it, but also the staff members and alumni base, as well as other people within the University of North Carolina football program and University of North Carolina as a whole. It is weird, and to answer the question, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but it is a lot. And for somebody who was so closely entwined with everything going on as far as football is related with his last stop and his tenure in New England. There was nothing that went through Foxborough that didn't have the ire of him or him first. So now it seems very, very strange. It's very, very unlike him. And as far as him being a cuck, I mean, oof. I'll lend that to somebody else's wheelhouse, but that is it all of is pretty strange.
Well, you brought up two things that I wanted to mention as well. The first is being that the fact that it's UNC and that, like you said, it's a state school. Taxpayers are paying for this. And the fact that they are having, while the UNC football team isn't as prestigious as the basketball team is, UNC has got to be one of the 10 best public universities in the country.
In the country. Yeah.
And you're essentially getting into spaces that I feel like the people of that community feel very uncomfortable with. And I would say normally if someone of Bill Belichick's ilk, even if he got off to a rough start, you might be some complaining, but it's Bill Belichick. It'll be year one. He can improve and, you'll probably keep it going. This is getting to the point now where if they have like a 5-7 season, a 6-6 season, which to be frank, I don't think they will. The ACC is not very strong, and they should win 8 games at least. Just because I think Bill Belichick's one of the, like we just mentioned, he's got to be considered one of the greatest football minds of all time, even though he's coaching in college now. It's gonna be brought up all year if they don't win. What's gonna happen when they're down by 20, maybe at home, and then ESPN flashed up to the skybox,
and you see her, right?
And you see her, right? And what's gonna happen if, because that's the thing with Belichick was he was so good, he was so dominant that he basically put his middle finger to the media for 20 years. He never was ever really in a situation where I think he was pressed. It was because he was winning 13, 14, 15 games a year. Getting into the Super Bowl, winning the division every year. He had a run of dominance. Those Patriots teams had a run of dominance where we would be shocked if they didn't win the division, let alone miss the playoffs. And I don't even want to call it the fall of grace. I'm calling it the fall of Bill, because like you just mentioned, the second thing I was going to say is Belichick would never let this fly. If this was Brady and he was 40 and he had a 24-year-old girlfriend after he just got a public divorce,
yeah,
who was walking, he would have cut his ass.
Yeah.
And it's just so shocking that they haven't even played a game yet. We're not at spring ball yet.
And no, spring ball just ended.
Yeah. But we're not this isn't the throes of the season yet, right? We're not really college football is kind of for the super fans. They're obviously getting hyped up for spring ball and things like that. But we're months away from any real live action happening, and it is cringy, I think, is the best word, because I know what I just said. I don't think anyone wants to go as far as me, because I feel like no one quite really knows where this all goes and or stands.
Cringy. Cringy is putting it kind of lightly, honestly. I mean, because there's several different subject matters within the actual, relationship that are cringy, right? Not just her involvement in the program, but also, just you have the autonomy to do whatever it is the fuck that it is that you want to do off the field, concerning two consenting adults. But that's not the case. It's just, all of it is just a big what the fuck that you're asking. And quite honestly, if he were in year four at the University of North Carolina and they just won the ACC and they went to the ACC championship and all that other things, it would seem like something that would get swept under the rug. But now it's a new hire. You're causing this much noise and friction and fraction in our program for one of the top 10 institutions in the nation. Fuck football and basketball. It's like, you know what I mean? They have a prestigious alumni base. So it seems as if this is, going left way before it's going up. And, but my personal feelings are just like that relationship in itself. It's something I can't put too much bandwidth into that because it's so it makes my stomach uneasy just looking at it. Just looks weird. And that's what you know what yeah, I'll stop there.
No, listen, but that's the thing. It's like I feel like we're all kind of beating around the conversation because
we are.
And here's the thing, because we don't know who's leading in the uncomfortable part.
Right.
Is it Bill or is it Jordan? Because we can make cases for both sides for being the aggressor in this dynamic. From what it seems to me is, like I just said, Jordan just seems to be putting herself very out there when she doesn't really have the skills to do this. Like, there are probably people that I don't know anyone on top of my head, but like family members have been involved in professional athletes or businesses, men or women's lives before, right? Like Dion, it was essentially Shedur Sanders' agent, right? Like, I think Lamar Jackson's mother is still his agent, right? These things can happen and be successful. No one is saying that there can't be some type of personal relationship that you have with the person representing you, but she don't know what she's doing, and I think that's kind of what stands out about all of this. So,
right.
I hope they win games, man. Like, cause I don't want to really talk about this. Like,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things I'm hoping. You know, maybe he'd find somebody more age appropriate. But that's just the start of it. So, but I do think it's ironic that like the whole magical solution to this, the whole is you find a girlfriend of age, then no one's, or excuse me, if you find a way to win, then no one's going to care. Who you're dating. So it's wild. It's two Americas. It's all that. But I don't know how the fuck this is going to play out. But yeah, just like you said. But yeah.
two Americas, man. That's how things go. Speaking of where Belichick used to work for the NFL, the NFL draft was last week. A lot of things happened, a lot more surprising that it was. I actually first want to start off with the trade for Travis Hunter. I am fascinated by his story and what he projects to be because, and this is someone who likes Travis Hunter, I do not think he is a good enough wide receiver to validate being the second overall pick in the draft.
Okay.
I do not think he's a good enough corner. I don't remember the last corner that went top 2 in a draft. We are going to have, because I know Sauce and Stingley went 3rd and Sauce went 5th or 6th, but Stingley went 3rd.
Jeffrey Okudah might have went 2nd or 3rd.
Yes. But the reason why I bring that up is because Jacksonville is essentially banking on the fact that he has to be, at worst, a star at one of those spots. And from what we're reading, they're planning on playing him mostly at wide receiver. And has to be, I would say, a Janoris Jenkins type corner. Meaning, not an elite corner. I don't think Janoris Jenkins at any point was considered maybe a top 5 or top 10 corner. But a corner who would take risk. Right. And if you threw that way, there is a chance that he will pick it. And I think that is
Diggs.
Exactly. Trayvon Diggs.
Right.
I would say Trayvon maybe, because I remember that first year where, what was it? He like picked off 16 passes, but then gave up 16 touches. It was something
Right.
crazy.
Something crazy.
Yeah, and like he gambles. I think the difference. I think Diggs got a little bit more sound in his coverage, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Point being is, they're basically expecting him to be a game changer on both sides of the ball, and I'm not sure if the hype of what we think he's gonna be is gonna live up to being the second overall pick.
Yeah. So I think that is very important that the 4-letter word you just used, hype. This is the last time that we use this word before football starts, right? Because the hype is heard but never seen, right? So if we're talking about the hype of Travis Hunter going into college, well, we saw it on two different levels of the Division 1 scale, both from D1 AA and then both from the D1A, and we know what he's capable of doing. If it's for my money, if I'm the GM, I understand, that he is a two-way star. But I largely understand what you're saying about him as a wide receiver. He's good at wide receiver. To me, he's a corner through and through. I feel like he has the arms, the very, kind of very long arms. He's fast, he's twitchy, he's quick, he's physical. He tackles, he finishes, he runs the ball really well, rallies the ball really well. He attacks the ball in the sky like a receiver. So everybody has that and sees that, and they're like, well, imagine what he can if he's doing that. On offense, jumping over three people against Oklahoma State, right on the sideline. Can't imagine what he'd do on the other side of the ball. I think that, and mind you, this is a job now. From a labor perspective, it's not going to work out that he plays both sides of the ball for 16, 17 games a year. It doesn't work that way, and it's labor intensive. It's already hard enough playing one position. You're going to get hit. You're going to get and there's no way to take a play off on defense. But I think for the value of what he was, and all things considered, that was a very beautiful trade on both ends. They have a new head coach down in Jacksonville, they got a new GM down in Jacksonville. They need to insert some type of uh, uh, some jolt of energy down there. So they got one of the best, consistent best football players in the country to come down there, and they got him for the next 4 years. I don't think it would be good for him or Square to try to be a star on both sides of the ball. Because we've seen this story before. You're a Michigan man, Jabril Peppers, who he to play for the Giants, but how many snaps of offense have we seen him play in the NFL? Not many. Uh,
None. You think about Devin Hester. That was the guy I was about to mention.
right. But
But he never really became a corner.
he never became a corner. I'm not sure if I actually even saw, and I wasn't a Bears fan, but we know how great of a kick returner, punt returner he was, and then a gadget guy on offense. But
Charles Woodson, another Michigan guy, never played offense.
never played offense, and and Dory Jackson, right? He was a two-way star at USC as well, but just a corner in the NFL. So I mean, it becomes a labor issue, and it goes a long way to that. I largely feel what you're saying about him being a wide receiver too, right? But you don't take the second overall pick to be your wide receiver too. That said, he has to be a can't-miss prospect. He has to be. He has to be. And for my money, I'm putting him as my corner. I'm letting him travel across. Because who's the other corner on Jacksonville's team? I know who the number one receiver is on Jacksonville. It's Brian Thomas Jr., who had a phenomenal rookie year. And if he didn't
third in the league in receiving yards. I didn't even know that.
Right. If he did not play in Jacksonville, it would be a different story. So now let's see what he does if he has a healthy quarterback and everything like that. So it's encouraging that you have this guy that's going to play offense. But for my money, he's a shutdown corner.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree. I think that someone was making the point of like, and this is the argument of everything. It's like no one could run a 4-minute mile until someone ran a 4-minute mile.
4-minute mile.
No one could average a triple-double in the NBA until they did, right?
Right.
Like these things are only, I would say, to the level of like we can't do these things until someone does it. So I am, just for the fan in me and the idea of like, I just want to see if he can do this.
Right.
Kind of thing, like kind of what was happening in Colorado. Um, we were like seeing if he can do all of the ability of him at school. Can he do it at the next level? It will be interesting to me, but I guess ultimately it's just such a weird way to predict, because if he's just decent at both, I don't think that that's worth going number 2 in the draft. Like, I think it would make more sense if he was an outstanding corner and like if he was an outstanding corner and never played wide receiver versus being like a number 2 wide receiver and like a number 3 corner. I think you would rather him just be the elite corner.
The elite corner. Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
I appreciate what you're saying. And everybody likens him to his old head coach, right? And Prime Time Sanders. But if anybody was willing to do a quick Google search and see how many catches that Prime had in the NFL, like he wasn't necessarily a two-way star. He just was somebody who could play offense, and he was a threat whenever he had the ball in his hand. So that's why people didn't throw to the side. If you got the ball in his hand, he's going. You punt to him, he's gone. But and there's even a story about him getting mad at either Joey Galloway or Desmond Howard. That they ran a kickback, so he went in the game right after he ran the kickback.
yeah,
So he's a
I
threat every
remember
time he
that.
touches the ball. But you're absolutely right. For him to be the number 2 corner and number 2 receiver and maybe number 3 corner, like why do that to him? Why do that to your fan base? Why do that to your team? You know, for me, I need you to be my corner. I need you to follow everybody across the field. Be just as physical as you want to be. And play corner the way you know how to play corner, like a young Jalen Ramsey. But and I couldn't tell you who their other defensive back is. I couldn't tell you. So they need to splash on defense. Nobody wants to come down to Jacksonville and play and at the beginning of the season where it's way too hot, and then they think that they got a cakewalk later in the season when it's warm, and they get out of Green Bay for a weekend in November and they get smacked in the mouth. So Travis Hunter, I need you to be my corner. I'm not sure about wide receiver.
Yeah. Um, moving on to his teammate, Shedur, who slid in the draft. He was
Yeah.
drafted 144 in the 5th round. Can I ask first, were you how everyone was surprised? How
Yeah.
surprised were you that he fell out let's just start with the first round. How
First
surprised
round,
were you
yeah.
first round?
First round, I wasn't that surprised. Was not that surprised for a caveat of reasons. I mean, for a myriad of reasons, but um, and some of those are football related. Was not surprised in the least bit that he fell out of the first round. I was hopeful, and in addition to that, I was very. I felt like the Giants were smoke screening, and they really were trading back into Shador for another myriad of reasons. I was hopeful. That's it. I wasn't using any. I wasn't applying any fact. I wasn't applying any history. I wasn't applying any inside knowledge that I had. Nothing. I just was hopeful that they would find a way to again jolt some energy and some electricity back into this fan base. That said, I knew it was Jackson Dart the moment that conversation came up. I knew
What
it
did
was
I tell
Jackson Dart.
you months ago, my brother?
You did, yeah, you did, and I think we sat on this podcast talking about it. I knew it was Jackson Dart the moment that they went out to Colorado to have another private workout. Because this is just validated. Now we ain't taking them. I just wanted to see you speak. We ain't taking them. And so what do I think overall about a slide for the 5th round? It's incredible value for a 5th round pick. Good for you, Shador. Because now you don't have, although you have the pressure of making the team, there's no guarantee that you make the team as a 5th round pick. Cool. What's Cleveland going to do? They didn't draft you to not play you. They're not going to start Joe Flacco for an entire season because he hasn't started an entire season since 2017. Dylan Gabriel's a very good piece. He's very athletic. I don't see that working. Deshaun Watson's never going to play another snap from Cleveland. And then Kenny Pickett. He was the quarterback that was supposed to be the bridge quarterback. So I suspect by November, when the season's out of tool for them, out of touch for them, Shador gets his opportunity. And at that point, we're going to see what the future might look like. You know, they might upset a Bengals team that's going to be trying to rallying at the end of the year, and and Shador goes down there and takes care of them. Or they may win a big Saturday football game that somebody needs to go into the playoffs, and Shador catches them slipping. But it's incredible value for a fifth round pick. But how he ended there, I think, is just a tale that we've seen all too many times just throughout corporate America. Period. Now, a large part of that happens to do with representation of the player, right? Who's representing them, what's representing them, and so forth. Um, there's a connection with complexion. We can talk about that all we want. But in addition to the fact when you have a representation that largely thinks that they're going to call the shots, and you're inept in certain meetings, which is all this is a job. It's a billion-dollar industry. You can't go into these meetings not knowing how to conduct yourself. How are you going to do that for 100 days out of the year when you're in the meetings with your teammates? You can't go in front of owners and GMs without putting a valiant effort about why you should draft me, and thinking that just your stuff on the field is going to be sufficient enough. No, you're going to need to articulate yourself properly. You're going to need to command a room. You're going to need to talk about different idiosyncrasies throughout plays, and how offense works, and how you plan to insert yourself into this program in this organization. So seeing him drop to the fifth round was sad, and it was humiliating. But for the value of the pick, good job, Shador, because November this whole piece of the city are yours.
Yeah, so I have mixed takes on these. I think that his fall to the fifth round. I don't believe it's collusion. I don't think like a bunch of billionaires got together. It's like, hey, you know what we want to do? Not draft Shador.
I think we also have to be careful about that, because it's like
we had a black quarterback go number one.
That's the
who talks cash shit
off camera. I mean, yeah, he does, but we should just be careful with like the idea that the colluding
against Cam Newton went number one.
They're colluding against him. Like,
yes,
although could he be the guinea pig in this whole entire exercise?
Well, so here's my thing, right? I think what happened is, and I said this on the last pod, was that it was some bad dope. He got bad information.
Yeah, bad dope.
I think he thought that the Giants were going to take him, and I felt like he was like, screw all these other interviews. Like, I think how most kids would act if you told them that, hey, you're going to get a job at this place, law firm, but you have to interview with these other 6. But in your mind, you were told you're getting this law firm. You're probably going to half-ass those other 5 interviews, right?
Oh, yeah. Senioritis. That's what that is. It's senioritis. You just got into school in November. What the fuck's the rest of the school year? I just got to show up and turn in my homework. What the fuck's the rest of it? I ain't got to worry about nothing else. I just got to get across stage.
Exactly. You've already passed the hard part in his mind, right? I think the issue that came into play was no one. It's my whole point about people, right? I think maybe Kevin Hart made this joke. We got a lot of yes men in the world. We need people to be no men. And being a no man, no one likes to be that guy or have that guy around. They're vital to you as a human being. I believe every single person needs to have a no man. Because it's so easy to say, they screwed me over, or they wasn't listening to me, or they don't believe in who I am. And then for someone to be like, no, they were right. You were fucking up. Or you need to improve on this. Now, you ain't got to say it like that. But
you in their car sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't embarrass them. Like if you out in public, like sometimes people just need to emote. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that his father, Dion, should have pulled him to the side and been like, listen, son, this is how it's going to go. Now, clearly there was some vibe that he didn't think he was going to the first round because he didn't go to the draft. Because this could have been way worse if he went to the draft.
Oh my God.
That would have been real bad. And I think that it, like you said, it's taken a lot of pressure off him in a way. And to me, there's no reason why he shouldn't beat out Dylan Gabriel. Like,
Yeah.
They're like, I watched him in college. One is clearly a better player than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never forgiven Dylan Gabriel for what he did to me. Not when he was at Oregon, but when he was at Oklahoma. Uh, they beat Texas one day in the Red River rivalry, and he went down the field with like 45 seconds left in the game, no timeouts, and threw a dart to the back left side of the end zone. And that was the only loss I had on my parlay that day. I was in Ohio. I went to Ohio State football game. I think it was homecoming, and we might have been playing Maryland. I put a nice 12 banger in. That was my only loss that day for 1,700. Never forgave him after that. So, I got my own personal quips with Dylan Gabriel. Ball player, tough as nails. Great story, phenomenal story. But Shedur Sanders' only job this year is to beat out the backup quarterback to be in the third slot. One of them, they're all going to make the team, right? One will be a practice squad.
I would assume that what they'll do is they'll cut two, and they'll keep three, and maybe they bring one back as like the practice squad QB.
Watson is out, so there's just him not playing.
Right? But he'll still be on the roster. But yeah,
right. So it doesn't count as a roster spot, right?
Yeah.
Flacco and Kenny Pickett. There you go. And I would think that if there's any trade viability, it might be Dylan Gabriel. So, there it is. But if not, come September, all four of them won't be in the same room. So we're just putting that there. But all he has to do is beat out the backup, and it's a lot harder said than done. But a lot harder done than said. But I'm more than confident that Shedur Sanders can beat out said backup's forward position.
Yes, exactly. Now to the stuff I know that you're the taste, the ready, what the people really came here for. It's the Giants talk. As much as I have been I am more out on Shane than I am on Daboll. Right. From everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, it feels to me that they had a good draft.
Oh yeah,
I like the running back that they got from Arizona State. I love Carter. I felt like they were in a great spot because they were in the top three. They were either going to get Hunter, as much as I even might have made my own little critiques of Hunter. It doesn't mean I think anything less of him as a prospect. I'm just concerned about his how great are you going to be splitting your time up? Neither here nor there. I knew they were getting him or Carter. They end up with Carter. And then they traded and they got Jackson Dart. Now, I'll say this. I think the Giants are in a very precarious position because I think the owner wants them to win 9 to 10 games next year. They are in a division with at least two Pro Bowl level quarterbacks and maybe 3 in Dak.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, we just got to say it. Giant fan, no Giants fan. We make fun of Dak Prescott for every reason under the sun because it's the Cowboys, so on and so forth. But that's a damn good football player. That's a damn good quarterback. Does he make mistakes? Absolutely. There's a lot of reasons that have gone into the reasons why the Cowboys are not successful. Dak Prescott is not a big reason why they're not successful. That is a damn good quarterback. You put him in somebody else's system, a lot of other good things can happen. However, 9 to 10 wins in this division with the reigning Super Bowl champions, with the best defensive line, second one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, the defense and whole, a great, one of the greatest offensive players of my lifetime. I've seen in my lifetime in Saquon. You would agree?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this getting any better for anybody in New York at any time soon. and it's not going to happen in this calendar year. It's not going to happen in this football season, which stretches across 9 months. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it. However, the draft, after taking the emotion out of it, we can get us, a few more wins, and I feel that some necessary needs were taken uh, into account with this draft. Added depth at the running back spot and youth. Uh, I like this tight end from Nebraska. Seventh round pick. I need me a hybrid from Daniel Bellinger and from the tight ends of the past that were very productive and very young, but tough as shit. I need me my Kevin Boss. That's who I need. I need my Travis Beckham. Pre-tear ACL, right? That's what I need. We got Theo Johnson. All of our good Giants teams have always had a combination
Good time
of
in.
good tight ends,
We
right?
always had two decent tight ends.
Two
All the good
very
ones, at
decent tight
least.
ends, right? So, again, Kevin Boston and
Jeremy
Travis
Shockey.
Beckham, Jeremy Shockey, and Dan Campbell was on those
Yeah.
teams. And Bear Pasco and Jake Ballard. They all were like, so I like that. We got a very, very nasty right tackle from Purdue. I mean, he's athletic, but he's also nasty. He's physical.
You're not
He's
getting back in on Evan Neal?
no. But to his credit, Evan Neal has at least taken this book, right? I mean, you're a professional athlete. I get it. You played millions of dollars. You played football at the highest level and every level that he's been on. Starting back at IMG, being a stalwart at Alabama, even here. At least he's been showing that he's bought into the process of trying to make himself a better football player. That much I can do. I can take. He knows that he just wasn't equipped to start at right tackle. He's willing to go to right guard. He's willing to go to left guard. So, you know, but no, I'm not in on having no answer your question.
Nice.
But just Abdul Carter pick, and I'll get to Dart in a second. But that's BPA best player available, and I feel great about that because the kid's athletic, he's fast, he's twitchy, he's strong as hell. But you know he has this kind of pass rushers like ingenuity, just like kind of like Von Miller, right? Like he has a great bend, but he's kind of like an artist with how he's trying to, get to the quarterback. I've seen him play spy coverage on the line and hawk down quarterbacks. For sacks is a beautiful thing. I'm speaking, a third language to people who are football novices, but this guy is every bit of what you want defensively. So I'm happy about that. And then Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I watched the game live when they were playing in Detroit for their bowl game, and he ran back a 56-yard interception return. He is a very wide but lean young man. He's physical,
Yeah. To
nasty.
me, the Giants should have their defense should be at worst top 12, and
Yeah,
they should be. I'm not gonna say the best defensive line in the league, but that should be in the. They should have that
yeah.
conversation next
Oh,
season.
absolutely, absolutely. And in addition to that, you look about what drafting properly in defensive line looks like. Look at the Rams. Like they have a great core that's young, that's not getting enough, you know, praise out there. But they took the proper steps, right? Got them all. Some of those guys got late round picks, and they're great. Look at the Eagles. They built from within. Without we got Dexter Lawrence, so I'm good about that. So I'm happy about that. And as far as our youth, Jordan Chatham, but put Darius Alexander right in there too, man. I'm excited about that. Now to the big thing, Jackson Dart. Uh, I sat in Jersey City on a Saturday afternoon in the fall, and I think it was like November, sometime in November, maybe October. I used to be a Florida fan growing up, so I was a big Chris Lee guy, big Chris Lee guy. He threw the prettiest spiral ever. Um, I can go all day about University of Florida football, but so I still root for them from time to time. Like if not loudly, just kind of in the back of my mind. And I watched that game against Ole Miss, and I watched what he did in the last 5 minutes of that game, the last minute and a half of that game. He threw three interceptions, and I couldn't get that taste out of my mouth. I couldn't. Jackson Dart looks like a ball player. I'm going to be exceptionally critical on him. but he looks looks good. Handsome guy, you know what I mean? All American white boy, got the flow coming out
He
the
could
head.
play quarterback
He can,
in an American. What was the TV show on CBS? CW with Tay Diggs.
All American.
All American. Looks
Right.
just like that.
Got the eye black. You know what I mean? Got the visor, the Jordans. He tried to run you over. He's tough as nails, but I don't need that on my quarterback, man. And if we're going to be investing 5 years into you, I need to see some real. This goes before the front office as well. I need to see some real development there, you know. And that's what makes me mad about the whole skipping on Shador thing. Maybe you all have some intel that we all don't have, and we've heard about how he conducts himself in meetings and everything like that. Cool. And from what we can understand is like he would not have got along with Brian Daboll going forward, and then kind of kicking the ball down the road. You see what it would have led to. It inserted Dion into that conversation that would got
And you're in
Dable
New
fired,
York, and
and
you're
you're
losing.
yeah. So we see controversy avoided, but I need this to be a hit. If you look at Jackson Dart's stats, a lot of those touchdowns were against lower level competition until they got into SEC play. I know he's capable. I know he has a skill set and a strong arm, Shador, if we're being honest. But I don't want you all or any of us, the fans, to fall for the same thing that we fell for 6 years ago with Daniel Jones. And said, yeah, he's fast, he's strong, he's athletic, and he has a strong arm. But he plays at Duke, and they never won more than 7 or 8 games. Like, I need this to work. And what processes have you put in place that shows me that you're going to be able to develop a quarterback?
Well, here's goes back to my dilemma, right? You're trying to, and shout out to Jerry Jones for this, circumcise a mosquito. There's no exact way to do this in my mind because unless he just beats out Russell Wilson, straight up beats him out, I don't see a way where the Giants aren't winning, making the playoffs, and John Mara's like, yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
It would have to be because he would have, if he's good, which this has to be. There's no way in my mind the defense is bad. So I need to have it to be some type of Bo Nix type of season where he's good, he gets better as the season progresses, and the defense is what essentially carries them into being in the playoffs. And once they get to the playoffs, they'll get smacked. That's we're not that far away. But the point of this season has to be wins in a weird way, but it's like I don't think it matters as much who is out there winning the games. I think if Russell Wilson wins them, or if they win 10 games with Wilson, or 11 games with Wilson or Jameis, I should throw him out there too. I think fans would be okay with that, just because because Russell Wilson's not going to lead the league in passing or passing yards or anything like that, right? You're going to win most games with your defense, so then you would have to see like, okay, the guy is good enough of a coach to get you into the playoffs again. And then I think you'll get another year, you'll have Dart, and then, we'll see how it goes. But if they are like 5-5 or 4-6 at the bye and Dart hasn't played, it's a lot of pressure on that kid to try and save their jobs.
Right.
Because at that point, it's save your job season, and he would have to look so good that the record wouldn't matter. He would have to be dropping like 300, 400-yard games for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
For it to be like, okay, this guy can ball. You guys picked him. Maybe we finished 5-12 or whatever, 6-11, but we're on the right track. We have our QB.
No, that's for real. But two things. Just going back to what we said about the offensive line, the report just came out from the New York Giants writer that Evan Neal actually is moving to guard permanently. So, and if that works out well, that's where he's going to stay out for the rest of his career. But I actually think that this draft pick saves their job or extends their job by a year, because the bad with Russ, they have that year built into, all right, now let's try the kid. You know what I mean? And
do you think? But here's my thing with that.
And it would have to go comically wrong. It would have to go like comically wrong. Now, let's call it what it is about last season. It's a lot of one-score games that we lost, but we're in these games. Lost to Washington twice by one score, And for what it's worth, our rookie of the year, if he doesn't drop a pass with 2 minutes and 4 seconds left in the fourth quarter, we don't lose that game. It's the third game of the year. We're 2-1 actually. Now that I think about it, right? It's going to the game. So there's that part. Um, but that's the part that annoys me about the Giants and always has. It's this idea to float around mediocrity for way too long. Go back to our final Super Bowl season, right? Our last football season,
They're nine and
Super
seven.
Bowl. We're 9-7. It was until 8:30 that night that we had to play to find out who is going to win the NFC East. And at that point, it is still, you know, it's still a shock to people that we even beat Atlanta, a week later. Just like float around it too much. I mean, so get up for big games. Like no one expected us to beat Seattle, but we got Seattle without our best player and win. How? We blow the Colts out in games we're supposed to lose. Why? Float around mediocrity is just a little bit too much, and it's been like that. So you're kind of conditioned by it at this point, and so you have this built-in expectation that it's never going to be good. Did we improve the wide receiver room this year? This all season? No, no. So like you want to make his job easier, find him another another culprit to ride in the car with him. So like there's just a lot that it seems like it's not a recipe for success. I don't know if there's any other bets out there that are worth taking a flyer on, but I don't feel like this is going to be what we all think it is. Now it has to go comically bad for Dable and Joe Shane to be out, like 2-6, 2-15, 2-14. I don't think it's going to be that. So do with that what you will.
I mean, listen, I hope so, man, because like the one thing you do not want, is a regime that drafted a quarterback. The next year they get fired, and then you've already screwed yourself up. This is the exact same thing that happened with Daniel Jones. Now, I was never in the Daniel Jones hive, but you gotta give the guy a chance.
Can I talk
And
about
they
that for just
never
1 second?
gave him a chance.
Can I talk about that for just 1 second?
Go ahead.
Daniel
Oh no,
Jones.
this is your segment, bro. I'm just
Yeah,
here
yeah.
as a guiding light.
Yeah. With Daniel Jones thing, it's kind of weird because I still I almost kind of feel bad for him. Like this guy's a multimillionaire, got 40 million on top of on top of his first round pick money. So this guy's made a lot of money, and some that he probably didn't live up to. No, most certainly didn't live up to. But that was the expectation we put on him from a last regime that over evaluated him. Now, I just want to say, I went to Ohio State. I saw, God bless the day, I saw Dwayne Haskins play in person. I saw his maturation. I saw the way that team responded and respected him. And there were some growing pains when he was in Washington, but there's no thought in my mind that he wasn't going to be our pick that year. There was just no thought. Daniel Jones comes out of nowhere.
Bro, I told you, dog, you gotta start listening to me, fam. I keep telling you,
That's also part of Giants
we do
fandom.
not
Like, you don't.
play in those playgrounds.
That's true. That's true. I'm with you. No. We're here on that. We've been here
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
I think through my normative state of mind or my normative thought of reality from time to time, I'm thinking that like everything's gonna be all right. Like thinking like they're gonna make the right choice. No, they don't. Now Daniel Jones. In addition to that, so I'm like, all right, whatever. He's 6'6". This kid's got some wheels. All right, cool. Like let's give him a shot. And I'm looking at these clips, and this is where I started fully getting immersed in like preseason uh, and these joint practices, like reading every bit of it, and then looking at the highlights of it. He did like this RPO where he snatched the ball back for a running back, and he took off 60 before anybody saw him. And I'm thinking to myself like, oh, we got it. We might got something here. Then we play the Jets, and they sub him in, and he goes 6 for 6 and throws a strike to Cody Latimer in the preseason. I was like, oh shit, this might work.
Cocaine was peaking.
Ooh. Play Dallas, I think the first game of the season. We lose. Play Buffalo, second game of the season. We lose. Tweet comes in on Tuesday morning. Daniel Jones will be starting this week 3. End of Eli Manning's tenure as quarterback of the New York Giants. Whatever. Cool. goes out, beats Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, come back a week later, beat Washington at the crib. I'm sold. We're 2-2.
You're like the Cookie Monster meme with the cookie dough and the spoon. Just
It's
lighten it
over.
up.
It's over. I'm gonna talk about bad dope. It's Boogaloo, baby. But then it was over. Like it's fast. It was grand opening, grand
Oh
closing.
my
Like we
gosh.
lost to the Vikings a week after that, and this guy kept getting hurt. And then I think we only won one game after that. I think we beat Miami at home when Eli Manning's last start. I think that was his last start,
Yeah,
I
didn't he
believe.
have like a shoulder thing or something? Like he missed
Yeah.
he missed most of like that season.
Right. There were times where he sparked the light. I'm like, wow, this kid's got something. Max Kellerman called him one of the best Giants football play, like best Giants quarterbacks ever. I'm like, yeah, we got something. Grand open and grand close, but like it wasn't that good to begin with. We didn't put any processes in place for him to be better. And in addition to that, he had three different head coaches in 4 years. So it's like nothing. It was a recipe for disaster to begin with. Dayball came in, fixed something, and I'm like, oh wow, let's build on that. And we didn't. Paid the wrong person. Although Saquon would not have done what he did with the Eagles with us this year. It is what it is, and I've come to the point of healing on that. But you know, it frustrates me. So that's why I have zero hope as it relates to or I have minimal hope, not zero. I have minimal hope as it relates to us drafting a quarterback, uh, and hoping that it's going to be a good thing quickly.
Yeah, I mean we'll see how the process plays out. The last little bit of this that I wanted to touch on was I thought Mel Kiper had a very interesting weekend, but I think he did touch on something that was kind of true, but I think it was kind of lost in the rant of Shedur, just because I don't necessarily think Shedur is the avatar that you want to go with this. But I think he was right when he said the NFL has no idea what they're doing with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like, you can go ahead and see, like, the reasons why dudes like Trey Lance, and I hope I'm wrong on this guy, but Anthony Richardson get picked in the top 5. Both those guys are the 3rd pick in the draft. You see how guys like Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott fall to one guy was almost undrafted. The other guy was a 5th round pick as well, or 4th round
It
pick.
was a fourth for sure.
4th round pick. Russell Wilson, same thing, 3rd or
Right.
4th round pick.
Russell Wilson beat out a guy that they just paid $63 billion.
Exactly. They paid a guy and he beat him out. Jalen Hurts. I can go on and on and on and on about how we've had number 1 overall picks not work and work. We've had 7th round picks not work and work. And I was just curious on your idea of, and I think you touched on it a little bit too, on this idea of like the NFL is almost in a stock exchange with quarterbacks, right? Because I already went on this whole thing last time on the pod about how Arch Manning's already projected to be the number 1 pick in the draft next season, right? For whoever.
Just had the conversation with the president about that yesterday.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think Arch Manning will be bad, but I have no idea if this guy's going to be good.
And we don't know if he's good now.
Exactly. We haven't seen him play. And so I think the fact that we are kind of always in this constant quarterback carousel and we don't actually know what it takes to be a good starting NFL quarterback, I think there's a lot of validity into that and causes us to constantly have this like existential crisis every single time. Either your team drafts a quarterback or your team's losing games and you're like, do we draft a quarterback? And there doesn't really seem to be this level of consistency unless you're the Packers, because I don't know how good Jordan Love is. He at least can play. Like, he's clearly not bad, right?
The last 2 seasons, he's had moments like throughout the last part of the season where he's figured something out and he didn't turn the ball over. His worst game in those last 2 years, one of them was against the Giants on Monday night, right, when he lost to Tommy DeVito. But like, there's moments where you're like, damn, this guy's good. Like,
yeah, and it's like they went from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer to, at worst, good.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of. And so it's really you can go back to, what is it, the Steve Young, to not Steve Young, Joe Montana to Steve Young to Jeff Garcia. That's really the only like comparable I can think of that's that good. I guess you can also think of McNabb to Vic, Cobb really to Vic to Wentz. No,
Nick Foles is in between.
No, Foles. That's what it was. Foles. Like Philadelphia. Philadelphia has had a bad quarterback my whole life.
Right. Yeah. It was the last one was like maybe like AJ Felix, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what I think? I think it's an institutional problem. I think it's an institutional problem. It's not team based. It's the idea that as a consumer, what do we call the NFL? Not for long, but also a win now league, right? So if you just got to talk about the pure superior. You just push it right out there, right on to Main Street. But at least with the Packers, if the entire NFL would take the Packers model of how to bring a quarterback along, we all would be better. There'd be a better product. Some teams are just going to be bad, and that's what it is. But starting with Brett Favre, they draft Aaron Rodgers, and for 3 years, this guy looked like clipboard Jesus because he was on the sideline just watching what Brett Favre was going to do. And then 4 or 5 years into his tenure as quarterback, you kind of forgot that Brett Favre was even a thought at one point because it's like, man, this guy is fucking good. Might be the most gifted thrower of the football that most people have ever seen. He's so good now that he has a team not drafting any quarterbacks because he's thinking about going there. The thought of it, then you look at Jordan Love, right? He comes in and it's perfect talk about, the model of succession. What does he sit for 2.5, 3 years? And then he gets his crack at it. Like, institutionally, if you are drafting these players, obviously you have vetted and done all your coursework prior to drafting them. But that's just the beginning of the work. Now you have to worry about their rookie progression. To look at Patrick Mahomes, right? He sat behind Alex Smith for a year. For all intents and purposes, Alex Smith was a good NFL quarterback. Number 1 overall pick. You probably thought he was a good NFL quarterback. And then Patrick Mahomes comes in and elevates, the Kansas City Chiefs to supreme guy-like, level. But throughout the league, there's just a short leash on it. There's not enough of a process put in place for each team or each team's coaching philosophies or anything for you to mature enough in the league. And if you will, I hate to do this, but who just won the most improved player in the NBA this year?
Well, it literally just came out. Dyson Daniels.
Yes, he did. Plays for who?
Plays for the Atlanta Hawks.
Now, granted, they're part of the NBA Invitational every year. But
NBA Invitational, them, the Bulls, the Heat, just
right
lock them in every year, baby.
But as far as use the Heat too, just like their players that are productive and highly productive on those teams, they've been there for X amount of years, but they have gradually improved because of player development. Throughout the NFL, there isn't that. Oh, you're flavor of the week. You're starting. Well, now he's out. There isn't that. So a large part of that it's an institutional problem. It honestly it worsens the level, the product that's put on the field. And for the most important position in sports, it makes it very hard to watch because there's no high level of skill there. That's why that level of skill is so different between what is good and what is elite, what is bad and what is average. Like there's such a difference there because institutionally there isn't enough of a process put in place to make these quarterbacks good and these players develop at scale.
Nah, man, I agree. That is Reek Parker blessing us with some time today. I really appreciate you coming on again, man.
No doubt, baby, no doubt.
Yeah,
I think it'll be best if we check in right around the 3-week mark of preseason. I'll give you an idea of what I think, about who's performed, who hasn't. I'll give you my final 53 projection. I'll give you an outlook on the season. But, right now I feel more free. I think I'm treating myself to some ice cream tonight after my situation in the field. And talking about the Giants, look what it did. Gave me a lot of fresh perspective on life.
There you go. That's what they call it when they have that booger sugar. That is Reek Parker.
My boy.
Appreciate it so much, man. And thank you all for listening to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Like I said, like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. See you guys again next week. Peace.